The sun was setting over the military base, casting a warm glow on the rows of tents and vehicles parked neatly in formation. It was just another day for the soldiers as they wrapped up their training exercises. But for Sergeant Thompson, this day would take an unexpected turn. She had been serving diligently, honing her skills and proving herself in every mission assigned to her. Although she wore the uniform with pride, there was still a hint of nervousness in her heart as she prepared for her encounter with Colonel Martin. Colonel Martin was known around the base for his confident swagger and loud laughter. He strutted through the ranks, often boasting about his accomplishments and freely sharing his opinions on how things should be run. His attitude left little room for doubt. He believed he was at the top of the chain, and everyone else fell below him. It wasn't unusual for him to make jokes at others' expense, especially when it came to those with lower ranks. As Sergeant Thompson walked toward the command center, she spotted Colonel Martin chatting with a few other officers. They were laughing loudly, and she felt a knot form in her stomach. She had heard stories about how he liked to mock those around him who he deemed lesser. But today was different. Today, she had information that could change everything. With a deep breath to steady herself, Sergeant Thompson approached them. The colonel glanced up, eyebrows raised at her presence. "Well, well, look who it is, our little sergeant," he called out, chuckling as if he were telling an inside joke only he understood. The other officers turned their heads, eyes glinting with curiosity. "Just finished another round of practice drills," Colonel Martin continued, smirking as though he expected her to answer with embarrassment. But underestimating her experience wouldn't be easy. This soldier had seen more than most knew. As she stood there, aware of the weight of her own rank and experience hidden beneath her uniform, she felt a surge of determination rise within her. Today would not just be another day. It would become a moment that challenged perceptions and showcased true strength in the face of ignorance. Sergeant Thompson stood tall, her heart pounding as she prepared to face Colonel Martin. She was not just another soldier. She was a skilled and dedicated member of the unit, having earned her way up through hard work and determination. With years of service under her belt, she had participated in many challenging missions and training exercises. Her ability to lead and work with her team had not gone unnoticed by higher ranks, even if they sometimes overlooked her in person. Today, however, she would show them just how capable she was. Colonel Martin, on the other hand, had built his reputation on confidence that often crossed into arrogance. He was a seasoned officer with years of experience, but his belief that he was superior made him careless with his words. While he had certainly accomplished much in his military career, it was his need to belittle others that set him apart in the eyes of the soldiers. He loved to tell stories filled with bravado, always putting himself in the spotlight and downplaying the contributions of those around him. As Sergeant Thompson approached the command center, she observed Colonel Martin speaking animatedly with a group of officers. His laughter boomed across the courtyard, blending with the sounds of soldiers finishing up their tasks for the day. The colonel's perfectly pressed uniform and polished shoes gleamed in the fading sunlight, giving off an air of authority that seemed to sway everyone around him. The other officers listened with rapt attention as he shared tales of his past glories. Unlike them, who followed orders or respected rank quietly, Colonel Martin reveled in being the center of attention. His jokes often included jabs at lower ranks, which he delivered with a smile that suggested he believed he was simply being funny. But Sergeant Thompson wouldn't be fooled by his bravado. Underneath her calm exterior lay a fierce determination, ready to shatter his misconceptions about her capabilities. As she took a deep breath and moved closer to the group, she felt empowered, knowing that today would not be about facing humiliation. It would be about standing up for herself and proving that true strength comes from within. Sergeant Thompson took a deep breath as she stepped closer to the group where Colonel Martin held court, his booming laughter echoing through the courtyard. As she approached, she could feel the eyes of the other officers on her, a mix of curiosity and expectation. This was her moment to stand tall and make her voice heard. "Look who decided to join us," Colonel Martin exclaimed, spotting her with a grin. "Our beloved sergeant. Did you finish tidying up your little corner of the world?" His words dripped with mockery, and the other officers chuckled in agreement, their faces reflecting a sense of camaraderie that made Thompson's stomach churn. She forced a smile, refusing to let his taunts shake her confidence. "Yes, sir," she replied calmly. "I just wanted to make sure everything is in order for tomorrow's briefing." She kept her tone steady, aware that she was playing a delicate game. The colonel's laughter faded slightly as he raised an eyebrow at her composed response. "A briefing? That's cute," he said, leaning in closer. "What do you think you can possibly contribute? I mean, how much experience can you really have?" His laughter rang out again, this time joined by some snickers from the others around him. Sergeant Thompson felt anger simmering beneath her skin, but chose to remain focused on the task at hand. "Actually, Colonel," she began, standing tall despite the weight of his words, "I've been involved in multiple missions that required strategic planning and execution. Perhaps you'd be surprised at what I can bring to the table." For a moment, there was silence. The other officers shifted uncomfortably as they sensed the tension rising between them. Colonel Martin's expression morphed from amusement to confusion as he processed her response. He clearly hadn't expected such assertiveness from someone he deemed beneath him. "Is that so?" he replied slowly, narrowing his eyes as if trying to gauge whether she was bluffing. "Well then, maybe you'll have your chance to show us all exactly what you're made of." The challenge hung in the air between them, like an invisible barrier waiting to be broken. Sergeant Thompson stood firm, ready for whatever came next, knowing that today was about more than just words. It was about shifting perceptions and claiming her rightful place in this hierarchy. Sergeant Thompson felt a rush of emotions flooding her mind after standing up to Colonel Martin. Anger still simmered beneath her calm exterior, but she also felt a surge of pride. She had finally faced the person who often belittled her and others like her, challenging his authority in an unexpected way. The tension in the air was palpable, and she knew this was just the beginning. As she walked away from the group, she could hear murmurs among the other officers. Some expressed surprise, while others seemed uneasy about the confrontation. It was clear that they weren't used to seeing anyone challenge Colonel Martin so openly, especially not someone he often mocked. The weight of their gazes made her feel both vulnerable and emboldened at the same time. Her heart raced as thoughts swirled around in her head. Could she really change perceptions with just a few words? More importantly, how would Colonel Martin react next? She recalled the disbelief on his face when she mentioned her previous missions, how it had briefly transformed his bravado into confusion. It gave her hope that perhaps, for once, he would think twice before making jokes at someone else's expense. As she moved towards her quarters, Sergeant Thompson reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Each training session and mission had shaped her into a strong soldier, capable of holding her own against any challenge. She recalled the late nights spent studying strategies and tactics, the team exercises where she led others to success, despite what some might have thought about her rank. All of that hard work had led to this pivotal moment. Reaching her room, she closed the door behind her and let out a deep breath. The anxiety began to fade as determination took its place. This confrontation was not just about one moment. It was about changing how people viewed each other within their ranks. She resolved to continue proving herself every day and to inspire others to do the same. With renewed purpose, Sergeant Thompson knew she would stand ready for whatever came next with Colonel Martin. She would not let his condescension define her or those around her anymore. Instead, she would be a beacon of strength and resilience in a system that needed more voices like hers. The days that followed Sergeant Thompson's confrontation with Colonel Martin were filled with a mix of anticipation and unease. The tension between them hung in the air, palpable and thick as the humidity of a summer afternoon. Colonel Martin seemed to be on edge, his demeanor shifting from arrogance to a guarded caution whenever she was near. It was as if he was recalibrating, trying to understand how to interact with her now that she had stood up to him. In the barracks, whispers circulated among the other soldiers. Some admired Thompson for her bravery, while others questioned whether she had gone too far. The mixed reactions only fueled the tension further. Each time she walked past a group of officers or fellow soldiers, she could feel their eyes on her, assessing her, appraising her strength and courage. It was a strange sensation, both empowering and isolating. Colonel Martin's laughter was no longer as carefree as it once had been. He would joke with others, but would often glance at Thompson, as if gauging her reaction. There were moments when he would approach her under the guise of asking for updates on missions or plans, but his tone carried an edge that hinted at unresolved animosity. "How's everything looking on your end, Sergeant? You managing all right?" he would ask, feigning concern while masking an underlying tension. Sergeant Thompson remained composed, responding with professionalism each time. "Everything is going according to plan, Colonel," she replied firmly, maintaining eye contact. Each encounter felt like a dance around unspoken words. She could sense that he was struggling to reconcile his past feelings of superiority with the reality of her capabilities, and it only made her more resolute. During meetings, when they discussed strategies and upcoming operations, Thompson found herself contributing more actively, sharing insights and suggestions based on her experience. The more she spoke, the more she noticed Colonel Martin's brow furrowing in concentration, clearly challenged by her contributions. This shift did not go unnoticed by their peers. Respect began to blossom around Thompson as they saw her stepping into a role that was long overdue. But beneath it all, she could still feel tension simmering just below the surface. She understood that it would take more than one confrontation to change mindsets entrenched in tradition and hierarchy. The real battle lay ahead, not just with Martin, but within the military culture itself. And as Sergeant Thompson stood ready for whatever challenges awaited her, she felt a fire ignite within, a determination not just to prove herself, but to push for change in an environment that desperately needed it. One afternoon, the atmosphere at the base shifted as Sergeant Thompson prepared for a meeting where Colonel Martin would be present. Today's agenda included a discussion about upcoming missions, and Thompson knew this was her chance to solidify her position and further demonstrate her capabilities. She reviewed the mission plans carefully, ensuring she had every detail down pat. As the meeting began, tension crackled in the air. Colonel Martin entered the room with a new layer of tension lingering in his demeanor. He scanned the room before landing on Thompson, his gaze filled with uncertainty. The other officers took their seats, quietly observing the potential confrontation between the two. Thompson felt a surge of determination as she sat up straighter, ready to show that she belonged at the table. The colonel kicked off the meeting, outlining the objectives for the next mission. However, it quickly became apparent that he was more focused on asserting his authority than discussing strategy. He made several dismissive comments about the challenges they faced, condescendingly downplaying everyone's input. Thompson shifted in her seat, feeling a mix of frustration and resolve as he continued his patronizing tone. When an officer suggested a different approach, Martin quickly brushed it aside, clearly irritated by any challenge to his authority. This was the moment that would define their interaction. Thompson couldn't hold back any longer. "Actually, Colonel," she interjected, finding her courage, "I believe that we should consider that suggestion seriously. It could enhance our chances of success, especially given the circumstances." Silence fell across the room, and all eyes turned to her. Martin fixed his gaze on her, surprise etched on his face, as if he were trying to reconcile this assertive sergeant with the one he had previously belittled. "And what experience do you have, Sergeant?" he asked pointedly, almost daring her to respond. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, Thompson replied firmly, "With all due respect, Colonel, I have led several similar operations successfully and have a few ideas that may prove beneficial." As she spoke, she reached for her folder containing proof of her achievements, including commendations and performance reviews detailing her qualifications and rank, evidence that underscored her position in this dynamic. In that moment, she saw an undeniable shift in the room. Colonel Martin's bravado wavered as he struggled to counter her assertiveness. The respect she had earned from her peers began to embolden her even more. It was clear that Martin was realizing that he had underestimated her once again, and this time that revelation would not go unnoticed by anyone watching. Sergeant Thompson felt a wave of empowerment wash over her. This wasn't just about asserting herself. It was about redefining expectations and proving that one's worth is measured by actions and accomplishments, not just by rank alone. The aftermath of the meeting marked a turning point for Sergeant Thompson and Colonel Martin, reshaping their interactions for the foreseeable future. In the days that followed, she noticed a subtle shift in the colonel's demeanor. Gone were the dismissive jokes and condescending remarks. Instead, he approached her with a newfound caution that hinted at respect. It was as if he was recalibrating his understanding of her role and capabilities within the unit. In the barracks, the mood was electric with the buzz of Thompson's boldness. Soldiers discussed her courageous stand against Martin, sharing whispers of admiration among themselves. Thompson felt the support from her peers as they acknowledged her contributions in ways they hadn't before. Some even approached her to express their encouragement, saying things like, "You really showed him," or "It's about time someone stood up to that guy." Each compliment bolstered her confidence further. However, not everything was perfect. There were still murmurs of doubt and criticism from those who had been loyal to Colonel Martin. Some veteran officers raised eyebrows at Thompson's rise to prominence, questioning whether she was ready for the spotlight or if her assertiveness would clash with traditional military values. But rather than let those comments deter her, Thompson used them as fuel to reinforce her commitment to making an impact. During briefings and strategy sessions, she found herself increasingly invited to share her insights. Colonel Martin would occasionally defer to her expertise when discussing mission plans, and she made sure to seize those moments. Each time she contributed valuable ideas, she could sense a shift in how others viewed her. Not just as a sergeant, but as a leader. Despite the progress, Sergeant Thompson remained vigilant. She knew that respect is often hard-won in a culture steeped in tradition. On one particularly busy day, while reviewing mission reports, she overheard two officers exchanging opinions about her. "Maybe she's not just another sergeant after all," one said. The other replied, "I think she's changing things around here." These words filled Thompson with hope, but also reminded her of the journey still ahead. She understood that gaining respect wasn't just about proving herself once, but consistently demonstrating her value over time. With each passing day, she became more determined not only to earn her place, but also to inspire others to challenge expectations and embrace their own strengths. As she looked out across the military base from her office window, Sergeant Thompson felt a sense of purpose swell within her. This was more than just about personal achievement. It was about paving the way for change and fostering an environment where every soldier, regardless of rank, could be heard and respected. She resolved that she would continue to fight for that vision, making sure that her voice and the voices of others echoed throughout the ranks. As Sergeant Thompson continued her journey of empowerment and leadership, she began to reflect on the lessons learned through her experiences. Her confrontation with Colonel Martin had taught her the importance of standing up for oneself, but it also revealed deeper insights about leadership and respect within the military culture. One significant lesson was that true strength lies not only in asserting one's capabilities, but also in remaining composed in challenging situations. Thompson discovered that responding to condescension with confidence and professionalism could change the dynamics of power. Where she once felt diminished by Martin's remarks, she realized that her command and abilities were valid and worth defending. Her interactions with colleagues highlighted another vital aspect of leadership, the impact of visibility and representation. As she shared her insights during briefings, she noticed that others began to feel more comfortable expressing their thoughts as well. This encouraged a culture of open dialogue, paving the way for collaboration and innovation. Thompson understood that her voice could inspire those around her to speak up and assert their perspectives, no matter their rank. Additionally, Thompson recognized that respect must be earned continuously. The journey toward changing perceptions was not a one-time event. It required dedication, perseverance, and consistent performance. She committed to nurturing relationships with her peers, offering support and guidance while encouraging them to embrace their strengths. This collective effort would bolster morale and gradually shift attitudes throughout the base. Moreover, as she observed the varied reactions from different officers, some supportive and others skeptical, Thompson realized the importance of understanding diverse perspectives. She learned to navigate differing opinions by engaging in respectful dialogue, acknowledging concerns while asserting her viewpoint. This approach not only diffused potential conflicts, but also created opportunities for meaningful discussions about leadership, equality, and teamwork. Finally, Sergeant Thompson understood that embracing her role was not merely about personal achievement, but also about fostering an inclusive environment where every soldier felt valued. She aimed to be a beacon of change, advocating for a military culture where contributions from all members were celebrated regardless of rank or experience. This vision motivated her each day as she sought to build bridges between ranks and encourage others to challenge traditional notions of authority. With each lesson learned, Sergeant Thompson grew more determined to make a lasting impact on her unit and beyond. She understood that persistence in advocating for herself and for those around her was crucial in creating a military landscape that inspired confidence and fostered mutual respect among all soldiers. This mission ignited a fire within her that she knew would shape her future in ways she could only begin to imagine. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere at this military base continued to evolve, shaped by the encounter between Sergeant Thompson and Colonel Martin. It became clear that this pivotal moment was not just a personal victory for Thompson. It had transformed the entire dynamic within her unit. The respect she gained, both from her peers and from Martin himself, was palpable as they navigated their new relationship. One afternoon, during a routine briefing, Colonel Martin surprised everyone when he openly acknowledged Thompson's contributions. "And I'd like to thank Sergeant Thompson for her insights on our recent operations," he said, his tone sincere. "Her experience has brought valuable perspectives to our discussions." The room filled with murmurs of approval, and several officers nodded in agreement. This public recognition marked a significant departure from his previous demeanor and solidified Thompson's position as a credible leader. Encouraged by this newfound respect, Thompson seized opportunities to mentor other soldiers. She organized workshops where junior members could share their ideas and learn from one another. Her goal was to create a supportive environment where every voice mattered, not just those of higher ranks. She believed that fostering collaboration would ultimately strengthen their unit's effectiveness in the field. However, not all officers were quick to embrace these changes. Some remained skeptical of Thompson's leadership and questioned whether a sergeant should be taking such an active role in shaping strategies and decisions. But instead of letting these doubts undermine her confidence, she chose to engage with those who were hesitant. By inviting them into discussions and addressing their concerns directly, she gradually broke down barriers that once felt insurmountable. Through these efforts, Sergeant Thompson became more than just a soldier. She evolved into a catalyst for change within her unit. The transformation extended beyond her personal achievements. It inspired others to reflect on how they viewed leadership and authority. The base began to adopt a culture of inclusivity, where respect was rooted in merit rather than merely rank. As she looked back on her journey, from facing mockery to being recognized as a leader, Thompson felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. This encounter with Colonel Martin had sparked not only her growth, but also ignited a collective movement toward equality within the ranks. She understood that change takes time and effort, but knew they were moving in the right direction. In the end, this chapter was not simply about standing up against disrespect. It had become an opportunity for authentic dialogue about leadership in the military and how every soldier deserved recognition for their contributions. With determination fueling her resolve, Sergeant Thompson looked forward to continuing her mission, paving the way for future generations of soldiers who would thrive in an environment that celebrated their voices and strengths equally. As Sergeant Thompson reflected on her journey, she felt a sense of accomplishment for the strides she had made both personally and within her unit. The encounter with Colonel Martin had been a catalyst for change, not only for herself, but for the entire military culture around her. This experience had taught her that standing up against disrespect is not just an act of defiance, but a powerful opportunity to spark dialogue about leadership, equality, and respect. Through her bold stand, Thompson discovered that change can happen when individuals choose to advocate for themselves and others. She learned that confidence in one's abilities can alter perceptions and redefine dynamics, especially in environments steeped in tradition. It wasn't just about proving her capabilities. It was about fostering an atmosphere where every soldier felt empowered to share their voice, regardless of rank. Thompson's commitment to mentoring junior soldiers became a pivotal part of her leadership style. By creating spaces where everyone could contribute their ideas, she cultivated a strong sense of community and collaboration. The more inclusive environment helped break down barriers, encouraging even the most hesitant individuals to share their perspectives. This emphasis on collective input led to innovative strategies and a stronger, more cohesive unit. In addition to fostering inclusivity, the lessons she learned about resilience and perseverance would serve her well in future challenges. Thompson understood that respect had to be continuously earned through actions, and she remained dedicated to nurturing relationships across ranks. By listening and engaging with others, she transformed skepticism into respect, showing that leadership is not confined to titles, but is rooted in the ability to uplift and inspire those around you. Looking ahead, Thompson envisioned a future where the military honored diverse voices and experiences, creating a culture of equality and respect. She felt a renewed sense of purpose driving her forward, knowing that the path laid before her was not just about personal triumphs, but also about paving the way for others. Each step taken would build upon the foundation she established during her encounter with Colonel Martin, ensuring that future generations would experience an environment that celebrated every soldier's contributions. As she moved forward in her career, Thompson carried with her the profound understanding that true leadership goes beyond authority. It involves nurturing an inclusive culture where everyone can thrive. With every achievement, she aimed to inspire others to embrace their strengths and challenge any conventions that might hinder progress. In doing so, she became not just a leader, but a beacon of hope for those who sought to find their voices within the ranks of the military.